Now, we found out a few days ago that Disney had intended to partner up with Fox and Warner Brothers Discovery to launch a new collaborative streaming service specifically for sports, a sports product that was supposed to offer everything or the best of things from all three of these rights holders, because that's what they are. They own the rights for different sports leagues and the ability to broadcast games. And this seemingly blindsided the entire sports industry, including the NFL, including the commissioner of the NFL, Roger Goodell. And let me just say it this way, he's none too pleased. And before we get going on to the story right now, what we're going to do is talk about me. Well, sorry about that, but we're going to talk about beachpunk.us because I sponsor myself here. And you can get all of your beach punk gear from beachpunk.us. And we've got everything from shoes to sandals to slides. We've got, ladies wear, men's wear. We've got mugs. We've got water bottles. We've got all kinds of things. You should check out our site as soon as you can. Some exclusive merchandise will be going up there shortly. And on that note, quick shout out to my friend Nolan Thunder for providing some written copy for today's story. And I do truly appreciate that. And one last thing to note. Since I am on a major subscriber drive, if this is your first time here, or your thousandth, double check to make sure that you've turned the little red button to gray because we're trying to get to 20K before the middle of March. I think we could get there by the end of the month, but it all depends on you. So if you hit the little red button down there, turn it to gray. If it's not already gray, I would truly appreciate it. And on that note, let's get right into it. See, in a recent Cord Cutters article, they reported that both Goodell and Chief Business Officer Brian Rolap were informed of this deal just an hour to its being made public, before it was publicly announced. And that's just a little more than poor communication skills, but there's probably some reasons behind that as to why they didn't go out and tell everybody that the three of these huge media corporations were conspiring to make this happen. Each of the corresponding companies will control a third of this service. It's looking and sounding an awful lot like the original Hulu deal. And there are significant rumors to suggest that this will be Hulu Sports. But regardless, there will be a new focal point of leadership. And as far as I know, and as far as has been reported, nobody knows who that is yet, which is also rather strange. Now, the executives are attempting to put a stop to this, as it could threaten a lot of their previous structure with current agreements around contracts with other entities. And when I say that, I'm speaking specifically of the NFL. They are not happy with this. They've got lawyers that throw in at this deal. So far, nothing's come of it, but we'll get farther in the story to talk about that. So, it's clearly designed to wipe out some competition from the other distributors out there. So cable and satellite providers, they're going to be pretty mad. The services definitely will be a big threat because one of the few things that actually holds on to subscribers is sports and other live entertainment. So when you look at the NFL execs trying to stop this, there's a reason. They make money from all these other deals, all these other carriers. Like they made a huge deal with DirecTV for Prime Ticket or Direct Ticket or whatever that was, which is now over at YouTube to the tune of like $7 billion or something. Insane, just enormous. Not to mention the rights deal they just made with Amazon, which kind of stripped away some rights from the Thursday Night Football stuff. And this is starting to look bad. So bad that the NFL might be frustrated with ESPN, but we'll get there in just a moment. So they already had a provider that they had problems with. Disney already had a knockdown drag out with Charter Spectrum, if you remember going back into that. And they just finished that deal up after that massive holdout that started at the beginning of the 2023 sports season, which hurt Charter, but also hurt Disney and forced Disney to essentially cough up some Disney Plus subscribership and also cut about 8, if I remember correctly, of their channels from Charter's service so they wouldn't have to pay them and pass that, then pass the need to pay for those to their customers. You have to remember, a lot of people weren't aware going back in time that their cable subscription was heavily weighted down by the cost of the monthly cost of the providers, the satellite and cable companies, the cost of ESPN. ESPN was a giant chunk of what your cable bill was. Most people don't recognize that. But anyway, it's been very common recently that there are some talks about merging streaming rights together. In fact, even today, in a separate story, which we're not going to cover here, Paramount and Peacock have been discussing the idea of converging into one or aggregating into one, which I've mentioned before on this channel, their services so one could take advantage of the other and vice versa. I always thought there would be a third party involved that would combine all these streaming services into one package so that you could get the best of everything, kind of an a la carte, picker. But obviously that just hasn't come to fruition, and instead these entities are going to cut out that middleman possibility and just do it for themselves, which may actually save them a bunch of money. But we'll dive into that in another video, I assure you. But right now, even Fox is getting involved in this, Fox Sports, which has kind of stayed away from this kind of a venture before. So Sports Hulu could be interesting. But let's get back to the leadership real quick, because this deal could see a major change for both employees that are in higher and lower levels of employment over at the NFL network. I mean, that was already probably going to happen under the deal that NFL was going to buy a piece of ESPN in exchange for some better favorable rights deals and distribution stuff, and they could share the load in production. That may be in jeopardy now, to be fair. Um, I feel bad if that's the case, but of course, only time's going to tell if any of that will actually change or stay the same. But if the commissioner is actually angry, scared, frustrated, as he's pictured down here with these three laughing CEOs, it should tell you something. Hopefully, the change in the presentation would be for the better and consistent with what we've been getting recently outside of some of the bad distribution that Amazon offered up. But let's look at the story real quick before we wrap this up and just say that NFL execs may try to stop Disney, Fox, and Warner from doing their new streaming venture. And it just wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me if the NBA got involved in this. But the NFL top brass are reportedly furious over the Disney-owned ESPN, Fox, and Warner Brothers Discovery's plan to launch a new joint sports streaming service in the fall. NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell, and Chief Business Officer Brian Rolapp were told about this joint venture just hours before it started, as I said before. This article kind of originated from Puck Media, which I actually have a subscription to, but it's paywalled, so it would be a little unethical for me to show it here. But hey, if you can get access to that article, it's well worth reading. Anyway, this is obviously Cord Cutters reporting, but they say the executives described as feeling blindsided, left in the dark, and had their lawyers examine the league's contract with ESPN and Fox for a way to squash the endeavor. So far, they've not come up with anything. I imagine they're going to keep throwing lawyers at it until they do. And while the streaming service looks like a dream come true for sports fans, it might be. It could possibly undermine the NFL's expensive existing cable TV deals. It most certainly would, which would seriously anger them. I can imagine the the NFL doesn't want to go backwards. They've been working very hard to make their product the most expensive and desired product out there, despite the fact that even though we had the world's largest telecast for the Super Bowl this year, largely led by people who really weren't football fans, the ratings for football hasn't necessarily been going extra gangbusters of late. But the company's unveiled plans for the streaming service, which will bundle together like cable channels, ESPN, Fox, Fox Sports, TNT, and TBS, along with other streaming content. I can imagine this will be a hefty price to pay and probably bundled and rolled into with Hulu, but we'll have to see down the road. On that note, you can check out this article for yourself over on Cord Cutters, it's called Cord Cutter News, and they're just phenomenal. But look, at this point, I'm going to ask you, what do you think? Do you think a deal like this really does derail sports rights and sports television rights, and even other deals that have been cut for sports by these other streaming services? Do you think that this actually has a place to exist. Do you think that they will be able to push forward with this despite the fact that it's going to irritate the NFL, the NBA, NHL, and MLB? Yeah, I think they're still going to push forward, and then they'll have to negotiate for a rights package again. And at that point, that frustration may bubble over, but I guess we'll have to see. But hey, let me know your thoughts in the comments section down below. I didn't know if anybody would really be excited about this. I know that I can see everybody's frustration with this that does media, especially the NFL. But this could actually, I think, kill the deal between the NFL and Disney's ESPN for the NFL to acquire part of them. This could really hurt that deal. Guess we'll have to see. On that note, be sure to take care of yourself, take care of others, and until next time, see ya.